So welcome today to this podcast. I'm joined here today by David Conroy and Fiona Conroy, together also with David Irving. Myself, I'm Gavin, Lennox. We're here as part of the 20th anniversary road trip, and we're visiting some of our great alumni around New Zealand. So what I'd like to do is just open by asking you a few questions. Perhaps, David, if you could give a bit of background around Conroy, the journey to where you are today, what you do, where you started and where you are today.
Yes, when I left school I worked as in a warehouse, but I always had a passion for transport. My grandfather had a transport business and my uncle had a transport business, and I just had a passion for trucks and transport. When I was 21, I had the opportunity to buy a license to start the business. Back in those days, 50 odd years ago, you had to have a license to operate. So I managed to buy a little trucking business that was doing furniture removals, and it gave me the rights to travel the North Island, shifting people. So I bought that.
So is that when the business is 50 years old?
50
next year, next October.
Right, okay, what's the big milestone?
Yeah, so that was my start. I purchased the business, and then approximately 18 months, 2 years later, my brother, who was an accountant for one of the oil companies, thought he would like to work alongside me. So we purchased another small trucking business and put the two together. So I started in Napier, he started in Hastings, so we put the two together.
Okay.
And we grew from there. So we had a gradual, we started to employ people, and then I think it would have been 10, 15 years later we moved into Auckland. We set a little branch up in Auckland because a lot of our work was in and out of Auckland. And we grew from there. The business gradually grew, and then we went to Wellington some years later, and on to from Wellington we went to Christchurch. I think the economy wasn't going that well in those early days, and some of the older
70s wasn't great, was it?
A lot of the older companies who had been going for probably 50, 60 years were struggling, and a couple of the bigger companies really were doing it hard. So we purchased the South Island operation for a company called DJ McGregor. They were an old household name in the moving field. So we purchased their South Island division, and which has been very successful, and two of the staff are still here today. That's 30 odd years ago.
And David, these are all household removals, are they?
Yes, yeah. In those early days, but we then started to, the railways had a monopoly over general transport and furniture transport, but they were starting to, the rules were starting to be relaxed a little, and we were able to get a license to transport new furniture, and which gave us a wide opening to grow our business. So from there, we Christchurch really gave us a real foothold in the whole New Zealand scene. So we then progressed to Wellington, purchased
Tauranga.
Pardon?
Tauranga.
No, Wellington was next. And then we were there we grew our Wellington branch, and then we set up in Tauranga and built our own building there. And then we, probably about 10 years ago, we thought, well, Nelson, we were always in Nelson. So we set up in Nelson.
So you've grown by acquisition and organic growth?
More
acquisition?
More organic,
okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do differently? If you mentioned that economically it was challenging for some of your competitors, and they chose to sell out. So what made your business different from theirs?
Well, we worked in the business and we were pretty passionate, so we were able to get out there and do the work and work alongside our workers. We didn't have a big infrastructure in place. We had and a big head office function that we had to support.
Right.
So we were pretty competitive in our early days.
But you did it was all remote. It's hard to be in everywhere.
That's right. Yeah. So, but then it worked for us, because we even today we're still Fiona and I are still very involved in the running of a business at branch level.
Yeah.
So we went to Tarrell and then we went back to Nelson, and then we had this. Prior to that, we had a vision. Australia, we loved Australia because we were doing a lot of work to and fro. So we 25 years ago, we purchased a little broken down 3-truck business in Brisbane, and we felt we could give it a go. And we brought this business and we shifted 2 or 3 people over from New Zealand to run it.
Some of your best people?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
And truthfully, it didn't make any money for a long time, but we were able to build quite a big warehouse there with what we did do, so that worked well. And then probably about 6-8 years after that, we had an opportunity to take a company over who was in trouble, their Brisbane branch and their Townsville branch. So we took that business over and we inherited some more staff who were good at what they did.
Did you rebrand, or did you
we kept Conroy? We changed it to Conroy.
Yes. Right.
Everywhere we changed to Conroy.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably it would be 5 or 6 years later, we had the opportunity to take over an old New Zealand company that had operated in Australia called Movements International.
Mm-hmm.
They were probably the 4th biggest in Australia at the time.
Oh, okay.
And they got into financial difficulty, but we were friendly with the owner. It had downsized a lot. So
They were up that eastern seaboard, were they?
yeah. And they approached us to have a look at it and see if we would take over some of their work. I spent time over there doing due diligence, and I said, well, the only thing we can do here is to actually take the branch over as a Brisbane branch, and it was a big branch, and it was a big deal for us, like it was doubling our size overnight.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people.
a lot of people and new equipment, but they'd run out of the essential dollars. So we were able to take them over, and it was great for us, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It brought some good people into the business that had really good experience in and you need local people are really important. You can't put New Zealanders as a whole in Australia and the business will run well. You actually need locals.
Again, going back to that differentiator, so you had a lower cost base by removing your HQ. Was that again another weakness in that business? Why did they struggle with you?
I think it was an older business where they had made good money over a number of years, and with the changing times of the 70s, they hadn't adapted to the new era and the way HR requirements throughout the world. People changed the way the HR departments and the big corporates decided they would do things differently. So it took away a lot of their opportunity to make a lot of money, but they kept the same structure in place.
Right. Okay.
The international moving market from a corporate point of view has changed a lot over the last 20, 30 years. So a lot of those, what typically someone would have a corporate account, they are now managed by a global company that is based in Singapore, or they're based in the States, and be service providers. And traditionally, those companies had held accounts directly themselves. So there's been a big shift.
So you're part of do you work directly with those large corporates at their head office, or do you kind of work as part of a network of approved removal companies?
So we've become part of their network. We've got a couple of, we've probably got 3 or 4 key partners that are overseas that hold global moving accounts, and we're service providers for them for Australasia now.
Right.
Yeah, which has been a really good relationship, hasn't it?
Very much so. And just once we'd taken the Brisbane business over, they also had Melbourne, Sydney,
right,
and Perth, and
so they gave you a footprint across the whole of
so
Australia.
we then 12 months later we took over their Melbourne, Sydney, which was really big deal for us.
Yeah, different market again.
Truthfully, we only wanted the Sydney, but they insisted we take the liquidator insisted we take the Melbourne branch over. I know it sounds crazy, but he insisted we gave it to us.
And Fiona, was that when did you join the business?
I'm just trying to remember. I think I've just had my 18 years official full time.
Okay.
Australia was on board when I joined the team. So I was a little bit older. We'd had a hard and fast family rule. If you want to join the business, that's fine, but go and have your own life first. So we duly followed, and I'm really grateful for it because I did my OE and I had a wonderful time, and then I thought I'd better do something serious. So came back to New Zealand and went to Wellington and did a Bachelor of Commerce down there. And then when that was winding up, there was an opportunity for a full-time job in our Wellington branch, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go for 12 months and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I've got an escape plan because I went off and got my degree. I've been really lucky. I worked with our manager in Wellington is very good operationally, so he taught me a lot of on the ground what I needed to know, and I was there for a couple of years, and then the opportunity came to move up to Naked to head office.
Right.
And I've been here for quite a while.
That's good.
Locked in.
So give us a snapshot of where Conroy is today in terms of number of staff, countries you have offices in or a presence in. What does it look like now?
Well, we're in Australia and New Zealand, and we have 5 branches in Australia and 6 in New Zealand. We have a full-time staff would be 340 counting Australia. And we employ quite a few contractors in Australia, not so many in New Zealand. What else?
Anything I noticed on your website you have an Asian presence. Is that run out of Australia?
So the Australian with that, it's a lot of that is done with partnerships.
Right.
With similar.
Our Australian business is predominantly international. 75% of their work is international throughout the world.
Right. So international moves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are a facilitator for a lot of companies too, especially since the days of the internet. We now do a lot of inter-country moves, arrangements for, we'll do a move if you want to shift out of the UK back to the States, we'll facilitate that.
Okay.
That's become quite a big part of removal company businesses.
So we manage that, but we don't physically actually do the work.
Right, so
Yeah.
you get a margin on top of the
Correct.
thing that happens there.
Yes,
Well, that's
so-
great. So tell us a little bit about, so you've been in business a long time before you connected with the Icehouse. And David, I believe you were on Owner Manager Program number 2.
Correct.
So that must have been in 2001, 2002. And I think before we started this conversation, it was your bank manager that introduced you to, and B&Z have been a great partner of the Icehouse since its founding. Tell us a little bit about what that program offered you at the time, and whether there were changes that happened in your business subsequent to that.
Well, we had worked in our own little bubble for many years, and at that particular time, we were probably at crossroads. And whilst we were pretty gung ho, we were going places, and we felt we were on top of everything, but the bank they thought that we needed some controls or
just disciplines, management practices.
disciplines, which we didn't know what the word meant in some cases.
Good hygiene.
So that was we did take that on board, and really attending Icehouse, it gave us, opened a lot of doors to a lot of people, including you, David, with your experience from many years, and many others there that, whilst we thought we knew a lot, we didn't really have a clue as far as business discipline went, and it helped us. Would I say there's any one big thing that came out of it? Not really. It was a whole series of little things, just talking to people, taking their advice, listening to them, listening to their experiences, and that's really been the whole way along our business growth strategy has been listening to people and see what they've done, how they've done it, and at the same time sharing our experiences with them too, because whilst we've had a few failures along the way, we've also had a few wins. So it's gaining knowledge from others.
Well, that's a common thought from many of the alumni is the sort of loneliness that can happen as a business owner, and the connections that happen across different industries seems obviously valuable. And Fiona, so you joined the business after your OE 18 years ago.
Yep.
Moved up to Napier, and your involvement with the Icehouse, and how's that experience been?
So I've started Icehouse just after COVID, when we came out of our COVID lockdown last year, and at the time I thought we've got too much on our plate, worst time to join. Hindsight, it's probably been the best timing that I could have stepped into it. Yeah. It's been a really relentless probably 12, 18 months when we look back, because I think for many of us, lockdown hit and we were like, oh my gosh, do we even have a business when we get on the other side? How do we manage through the lockdown period? How do we look after our staff? What does it look like on the other side? And it's given me an opportunity to kind of pause once a month and go, okay, where are we at? And because it's been so busy, there actually hasn't been the usual downtime. We haven't had our peak season and our low season like we traditionally do. It's actually just been foot down the whole way.
Really? That's really interesting. So when COVID hit, I mean, the word, if you look at it at a macro level, it looks like international moves would be kind of fallen off a cliff. So what happened in your business?
They didn't fall off the cliff as much as we thought. We were fortunate through lockdown, we were still allowed to receive the inbound work that was coming in and clear it and hold it in our warehouse. So we had a little bit of work happening then. What we did see, and then we moved out, and we went into lockdown when we had house settlements had gone crazy for New Zealand. So there were a lot of people that were displaced through that time. We kind of came out of it, managed to get on top of the work that had come in, caught up with what we should have done through lockdown, and then we're like, okay, what happens next? Well, what happened next was the New Zealanders all started to come home. So we've got, whilst prior to the lockdown and COVID, a lot of South Africans came to New Zealand, that door shut, but we've got New Zealanders returning, and they're coming back from all over the world. So there's been that to manage, so it hasn't stopped the international as much as we thought. We saw a big spike of New Zealanders coming back from Australia, so we could see from our Australian business, massive inquiry in August last year, and then we got the tidal wave of actually physically doing the work when we hit December, because the lag. And then domestically, because the New Zealand housing market has been so strong, our domestic removals have been pretty solid for really since September last year, hasn't it?
Coupled with that too, the retail market in New Zealand has just been ballistic.
The demand on the commercial.
25% of our business is retail or joinery, fragile freight, and it's just gone, it's been ridiculous.
Okay, so you do removals for almost like in a freight kind of way, is that?
It's like commercial. We transport for new furniture factories and a couple of big retailers. We do their work, and they have seen unbelievable growth in the last 12 months, and we've been part of that. And house renovations, we do a lot of joinery and
new bathroom products.
I didn't realise that.
Lounge suites.
Right.
Yeah.
You name it. It has been. There's been some huge growth in that department, in that section of our business, and office fit outs. There's been no holding back. It's been
amazing. So if you were to look back at 2020, which was a pretty pivotal, it's kind of scary year, but then it looks like you've come out really strongly. What's the one thing you took out of that year, do you think, in terms of, as a business owner, that you would say that I really learnt X in that year?
I think what we've taken out of it is that the whole world has changed, and don't try and forget how we operated in the past. The world has changed, and expectations of people have changed dramatically. So we can't go back to where we were, and we can't allow ourselves to go back to where we were. We've got to move forward and come up with new ideas, new systems. That's one thing we have been very fortunate with. We've got a pretty good IT system, and we invest heavily into that.
And we're about to, and we've, our big for our project probably the next 12 months is we've got new IT people joining the team, and a commitment that we're going to really ramp up around that side of the business. There's opportunity there for us.
Yeah, I mean, digital is one of those massive waves that was accelerated during COVID for many New Zealand firms. Is that what you had? Did you have the same
100%.
experience?
It's just blowing us away. I mean, 2-3 years ago, just a small item that we were doing, we started to do video quoting, where you come to us for a quote, we get you to run your phone around your house.
Yes.
Now, I thought that was a stupid idea, a waste of time, and I never really grew to like it. Or come COVID,
It's the only way.
That's the only way. And all of a sudden, we had all these salespeople operating from home, and it's been the most successful thing that's ever happened in the business.
So it's reduced your cost of sale effectively?
Huge.
And so people don't travel, they don't kind of spend
half
a day getting
people want it now. They just want it. They want to scan their furniture with their telephone, and 2 minutes later have their price.
They don't need to wait 3 or 4 days for a consultant to come to their house and do the survey. If we can give them a call in the afternoon and do it that way, it's taken care of.
And it's still a human looking at the video saying, okay, it's this lounge suite that,
Just our people are doing their job differently.
Right, brilliant.
And that for all our salespeople throughout Australia and New Zealand, it's changed completely. I mean, it just hasn't changed a little.
No, amazing. Yeah. And I guess you've got a record, because often one of the challenges around removals is, I forgot about the room over there that needs moving, and then you have a record of what they've actually shown.
Accuracy has improved, I would say, about 20% since we've been doing video quoting.
And our operational people it'll never work and we'll have problems on every job we go to. They're almost happier now if it's been a video survey versus a physical survey.
So the cost of doing business? Down, up?
The cost
of doing business
is down.
It's down. Yeah. So, and if you how have you managed your margins on that? Have you priced it? Are you competitive? You don't want to do that, do you?
It's been very good to us. Put it that way.
Very good. That's terrific. Well done.
That's great.
I mean, but it's.
But we are under quite a lot of pressure with our people as a whole. The wage pressure is significant. So it's helped, but it has been offset in some areas because the demands out there for people.
Looking out from here with that's given you a step change in your cost structures and your capability, and you can be ahead of the curve a bit and potentially move your business on, compete better.
Oh, very much so. We're finding that now. It's possibly a little bit hard to judge because there's plenty of work out there. When you get a downturn, it's always
we'll see how successful it really has been.
But we know people, they like it, they like the way it works. We can give them answers quickly because everybody wants to know now. If you go and buy that TV, you really want it today. You don't want to wait for 3 months.
Expectations quite different.
And with house sales, the way they've been in the last 12 months, people want the house tomorrow, don't they?
They do, and it's moving so quickly.
And the biggest problem is waiting for the bank to give approval with the mortgage. I think that's the slowest part of the whole process.
So if I could ask, this is a tricky one, but if you've been in business for over 50 years, and Fiona, you've joined the business almost 20 years ago. If there's one thing that you would say to another small, medium business owner, what around investing in themselves or in business practice at a high level, what would it be? David, maybe you looks like you've got the answer there.
Well, one, they've got to invest in themselves for future learning, if there's such a word.
Capability.
If they can invest in themselves, I know it's difficult at the time, but if they can invest in additional learning, and there's plenty of opportunity out there to learn further, that's one of the best advice I could give. Business is not easy. It never has been easy for anyone, regardless of, but you can make it a little bit more enjoyable
by learning.
And you have to step outside of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to look at the bigger picture, because that can get lost very easily, and sometimes all the good that you're doing you can't actually see, and some of the challenges that you've got you equally can't see that as well. You can't be 100% all the time in the business. I think your business will prosper if you actually take the time to reflect, and sometimes you have to change direction and you actually have to do things a little bit differently. I haven't got all the answers. I've certainly learned that, and it's just a really good. It really does help take that next step up. And for me, it's been about looking after our people. Our business is nothing without our staff. So I'm really, really mindful of that. Going forward, we've got a lot of families. We support
workforce.
Yeah.
And in different
it's
countries.
hard. It's hard work what they do.
Yeah, and truthfully, our biggest challenge going ahead is our people, especially in the environment we're working in at the moment with COVID restrictions.
So do you mean retaining, or do you mean attracting, or do you mean actually kind of managing the complexities of the COVID environment?
Or
probably all of it.
When you think about them for who they are today, are they equipped and capable to do what you could see ahead of you? To what extent do you see you need to upgrade the capability, or is that just part of a continuous process that you're conscious of?
I think more so today we've got to give our people the opportunity to progress, like we were talking about one of our girls yesterday.
Yeah.
She's got great potential, but we've probably held her back. But we need to give her additional training, and she'll give us great results.
It's giving our people career paths, because we've got some amazing people that I would like to retain as time goes on. We also have a little bit of an ageing demographic within our team, so it's recruiting the young ones to come in. That's pretty challenging, not impossible, but there's a place for people out there in our business to have a career.
And location may not be a constraint for you, given the sales mode moving more remotely, and obviously removals means you don't need to be physically located necessarily in one location. Is that correct? Or are they most of the staff here in Napier, or each of those centres?
Oh, they're pretty scattered. They're scattered right throughout the country, and we will we'll take people if they're good in the particular field. We'll station them anywhere within reason. It's a head office here still, but if there's a really good person comes along, we've got our innovation manager who looks after our smarts. He operates from home in Tauranga.
Interesting. Good stuff. So you've hired an innovation manager. That's interesting.
He's been with us for quite a long time, hasn't he? And his role he's always had a real passion for the technology side of the business. So he came up originally as international manager, and then it changed to a sales manager, and then the tech has kept developing. So we've rebranded, what he does now, and he has a real strong focus on the technology side of the business, particularly around the sales side. And he's really passionate about it, isn't he?
Yeah. No, he loves it. It's all over it.
That's great.
It's not that many years ago we had one computer. Now everybody's got 2 or 3 computers, and then we didn't have to fix computers because we didn't have them. Now I think we probably, if we take the staff, contractors, etc., we've got 5 or 6 people working on our IT side all the time. So
it's an important.
That's a division within itself.
Can I just ask a question that it's a different question that goes to you both? What do you put your success down to as a father and daughter in the way you brought yourself, you come together, you work, and the way you see the transition happening? Can you tell us how that's working for you and what any knowledge and learnings there are out of that?
I might have different answers. From my point of view, probably good that I wasn't an 18-year-old that joined the family business straight away. So I had some independence, and I was always like, well, I've got options if it doesn't work. So I was really did want to join the business. Really invested in it going well, but I was also like, I need a backup plan if it doesn't. So fortunately, it's all gone pretty well. And time, it's probably taken time to develop our working relationship. Would that be fair to say? The business has been very much your baby, so it takes it, and I have had to learn lots of different parts of the business along the way.
But now Fiona manages a lot of the business that I don't have anything to do with.
You don't know exists sometimes.
I know it's the international, the sales and marketing. I still look after finance because we haven't appointed anybody in the finance sector, but every other aspect of the business, Fiona pretty well controls in a sense, and she enjoys it, like the operational side. We both enjoy operations, so which is a big plus.
How do you complement each other?
We talk well, and we usually come up with an answer. It's not always the right one, but we usually agree, and it's not pressure on either part that we agree. It's kind of there's probably we do things similar in lots of ways. Yeah. One, we want to do the job as the best we can, and want to look after our people. So we've kind of both got that.
It's very simple. We obviously the business needs to make money and we need to reinvest in the business, but we want happy customers and we want staff that are happy as well. And I think the one thing that we both stick to very strongly, and I think our other senior people, is keep it simple. We just don't complicate things. Just keep it as straightforward as we can.
Well, that sounds excellent. And do you have any? If you've got anyone independent, say as an advisor or a board member, do you? I think I can see by your face.
Yeah, we've had a couple come in, but we have got an outside director, a chap by the name of Trevor Thornton. He was with Grant Thornton, but not.
He was a partner there for a long time.
Trevor worked for one of the big government projects a couple of years ago. You might South Canterbury Finance. Trevor's been with us for how many years?
Probably 14 or 15 now. So he's based in Christchurch. He comes up for our board meetings. He has been through. He's seen a lot over the time in the business, how it's changed and evolved, and probably gets a stick out occasionally when he thinks we're not doing the right thing, and kind of guides us along our way.
And is it valuable, that 14 years of his?
I think it is, definitely, because you do need somebody to share the odd idea with. And he, from a commercial sense, he certainly he will speak his mind. So it has been very beneficial, and I would always recommend that people have somebody. Until we had Trevor, we had nobody, did we?
I would. Yeah, absolutely. You do need somebody that's independent of your business, and particularly when you've got a family business, because family businesses do operate. We're not corporate. We'll never be corporate, but we do need that independence outside of it. Just it keeps everybody on the straight and narrow.
We've been very fortunate. Gary, my brother, who's the other shareholder, we've never had conflict. It's always been, he was quite happy to leave it to me to make the decisions, and
Is he still in the business or not?
no, he's retired.
Okay.
He's a little older than me, but he's still a director, but he doesn't participate in any of actual decision making. But he's quite happy with his lot.
Well, look, I'd like to thank you both for your time this morning. It's been a fascinating story. So, Fiona, David, thanks a lot. I look forward to seeing a little bit of your business outside here before we end our visit. So, thanks again.
Cool. Thank you.